Yes people, welcome back to another video today. Oh shit, there's thorns and everything. I didn't think this through. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about three different types of cameras. So we've got a bridge camera, which is basically sort of like just a fixed lens camera. We've got DSLRs and we've got mirrorless cameras, which is what I'm filming on now. So I'll show you that one in a little while, but we've got a few notes written down about sort of the differences between them all. And the obvious one with a DSLR and a mirrorless is this has got a mirror in it. I don't know if you can see that, but if you can, then sound. So this has got like a mirror mechanism in it, so it like reflects the light off of the mirror into the viewfinder thing, and then bosh, your sound. And with and with these, this has got like I believe it's got like a little sensor in it, but it's a fixed light lens, so it zooms quite far. This specific camera can like get some decent pictures of the moon. I'll put them in right now so you can see if I can find them. So that's pretty much what I use that camera for, but let me just get my notes out and I will talk you through all of the details and stuff about each of these cameras, like the pros, cons, all that sort of stuff. So my first point is for the bridge cameras, which is something that I've already mentioned. It's a fixed lens, so you can't take this off and change it for another one like you can with the DSLR and the mirrorless cameras. It will generally have sort of like a smaller sensor compared to, like, that's a full frame sensor, so this will have like a smaller sensor. I'm not 100% sure on what like sort of size, but it's got a smaller sensor in it, and it's got what we call an electronic viewfinder. So when you look through it, it's like all electronic and shit. So yeah, we've got that, and the LCD screen, which this thing is what I want on this camera that I've got. I want a spinny screen, but I ain't got that. Ah, you bastard. It's got a thorn stuck in my hand. Don't know where that came from. But yeah, so, and also another point with this is it's like a lot more lightweight and it's smaller and more compact compared to this. It might not look it. They're on sort of the same size, but this one is a little bit smaller and a little bit more lightweight compared to this DSLR camera. So yeah, there is a few pros and cons to having something like this, and that is, obviously, I've mentioned it's smaller and more compact, so it's easier to travel with. Like I was talking about the 50mm in the last video, it's like nice and small. But this specific camera is only 16.1 megapixels. It still gets decent pictures. Like, this is the camera that I started photography on. I was using this for like a year or two because I used to be one of them cringy vlogger kids back in the day, so I used it for that. And then I decided to give photography a go, and this is the camera that I used to start off with. So it did me well for a while, but I kind of wanted to move away from this fixed lens sort of thing. So after I finished school and started college, I decided to give it a little bit of an upgrade. But in terms of price, you can't really go wrong for, if you just like one of them travel dons that just wants to take pictures. The settings are pretty easy to navigate and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty easy to use as a beginner photographer, so it's something I'd take into consideration. But nowadays, with the cameras you can get second hand, it's just not worth buying one of these. You can get a decent, like, I don't know, I think a crop sensor, you could probably get a decent cropped sensor camera for around maybe the same price as a decent bridged camera, so it's worth taking into consideration, but I personally wouldn't anymore. And now we're moving on to the DSLR cameras. So there's a massive difference between this and the bridge camera, and that is you can take the lenses off, which is nice because you can have a higher range of like focal lengths and stuff. You can get zoom lenses or you can get prime lenses like this, and it's very nice to have. What have we got for this one? We have interchangeable lens systems, which is this. You can change your lenses and all that sort of good stuff, so that's a nice thing to have. What else have we got? So yeah, these are larger and can generally get heavier. This one's fairly light 'cause it's a cheap plastic thing, but it was my first camera that has an interchangeable lens, the Canon 4000D. I was using this up until recently actually, so I upgraded from the bridge camera when I moved to college, I believe, and I got this, the Canon 4000D. It cost me like 500 quid back in the day, I think. So it's a pretty decent first camera. I've had not many problems with it, but there is one huge like thing that I'd take into consideration, and that is the autofocus on these things. It's shit. So it takes about 400 years to focus onto what you want in, and then once you take the picture you look at it and it's not in focus. So it's something that you do need to take into consideration as well, is autofocus, because depending on what you're wanting to do, you're going to need a decent autofocus, and this just does not have that. What else have we got? Yeah, larger and heavier. You've got a lot more manual controls on this one as well, so there's like a lot more options. It's easier, it's got a lot more stuff you can play with it, so like the ISO and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot nicer on this thing. We've got a little dog running after us. Right, so yeah, pretty much I've got on my notes that that's pretty much all I've got actually. Interchangeable lenses, nice. We've got extensive manual control, so you've got a lot more control over what you do with one of these compared to the bridge camera. What else have we got? Shit autofocus, that's literally what it says on my notes, because it does take a long time to get that focus in, especially with this lens, but the autofocus just isn't great. So we've got that. What else have we got? It's obviously bigger. Bigger means more battery life, I guess. So I'm not too sure what the sort of specs are on this, so I'll just put it on screen now so you can have a read through. But it's a decent camera. It's just plasticky and a little bit poo. It doesn't even have an on switch. You have to switch the settings dial to turn it on. It's not even got a switch for that, which is a bit terrible. And something else on this compared to what's on that is this little button here. You have to press a little button to change it from the viewfinder to the screen, which is something I don't have to do on that. It's just sort of like it's on a sensor, I guess. So yeah, there's that as well. Now, comparing these two to each other, I'm not 100% sure on the price difference, but I imagine it's not too much nowadays. This is decent for like someone who's not really mega interested in photography but want a decent camera. I'd get a bridge camera just because you've got like mega zoom. Like, look at how much it zooms. Oh, nice. It's just not working. Sick. Is it going to work? It should turn itself off. Oh, it's dead. Yeah, it's dead. But yeah, it's got like mega zoom. So that, compared to that, you'd have to pay, I don't know, a couple £100 for a lens that does the same as what this does. But if you're not like wanting to fully get into like photography, I'd choose one of these things, but they are pretty dog. This is a decent cheap camera. I can't imagine they'll be selling for much nowadays, because I did buy it a long time ago, like 4 years ago, I think, somewhere around that sort of time. So yeah, I've been doing photography for a long time. But yeah, this is decent. This is what I started on. But you can get a lot better cameras for probably the same price nowadays. Like a crop sensor, you can't go wrong with one of them. I've never used one personally, but I've heard a lot of good things about them. So they're decent, like starter cameras. Moving on to the mirrorless camera. I'm filming on it now, but it's got like no optical viewfinder, so it's got like a pretty much a screen in the viewfinder, because it's all electronic. So what you're seeing through the viewfinder is what you're going to see in your final picture, which I think is pretty decent. Again, with the DSLR sort of system, you've got an interchangeable lens system, which is basic on every sort of camera nowadays, isn't it? What else have we got? We've got, it's a more compact and lighter. I don't know if it's much lighter than this thing, but when you get to the more expensive DSLR cameras, they do get quite heavy, and this is a pretty light lens. It's a pretty light camera, if I'm being honest. And it's got a sensor. It's got a sensor, not a mirror, so that's sort of what reduces the weight quite a lot. But what does add to the weight is the quality of that camera. It's like all metal. This is like shitty little plastic. I don't know why I did that. I've got my gloves on, but I'll show you now. Let me. Like, you can hear just how shitty and plastic that is, compared to that thing, because it's all like metal and nice. It's got like an advanced autofocus. I'm just going to Google it now. I think it's like 91 points of autofocus. Let me just see. So it's got 425 contrast-based autofocus points, along with 693 phase detection autofocus points. Not got a clue what that means, but it sounds like a lot. So yeah, it's sick. What else have we got? The manual controls. There's been this in the list for all of them, but this is probably the best you're going to get compared to these two, in terms of like all the manual settings and stuff. And it's a sick camera. I've been using it for a few months now. This is what I've been filming all my videos on, pretty much. This is what I've been using to shoot all the car photos, and it's pretty sick. I like it a lot. It was very expensive, but we're not going to talk about that. Yeah, so you can get decent cameras for fairly cheap on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. If you're looking to buy a camera and you're just starting, that's probably the best place you're going to find a cheap camera, is Facebook Marketplace or eBay or even MPB. I've been looking at lenses on there. There's some pretty decent prices, if I'm being honest. So for like Sony A7iii, I believe, they're not like mega expensive. They're a crop sensor camera, so it's a smaller sensor, but I imagine you're still going to get like the same sort of quality, I guess, because if you have a look at Life for Optics' work, he shoots on one of them, and his pictures are like fucking top quality, mate. They're sick. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. I've rambled on for I don't know how long, but yeah, that's the difference between a bridge camera, a DSLR, and a mirrorless. So if you look at these side by side, let's just put them side by side, you can see like sort of this one's a little bit bigger. This one's actually heavier than this one, even though this one says it's heavier than this. But this is actually like a decent quality build. It's like a little bit of plastic, a little bit of metal. This is just literally all plastic apart from these metal points here and probably the components inside. But yeah, so if I was starting out photography now, what camera would I buy? I'm gonna happily say a crop censored camera is probably something that I'd choose, maybe, or a DSLR, because it's just a lot better than this thing here, because you can change your lenses, you can learn more about photography and about the art of it using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, just because you've got like more options of lenses and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Hit the like button and the shiny subscribe button, all that sort of juicy good stuff, and I will see you in the next one.